Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to take you through everything that I pack to travel as a tattoo artist. So this particular trip is for a private VIP client. So what I would take for this trip is slightly different from what I would take for a convention or a guest spot. So for this particular one I will need to take everything I need to make the tattoos happen, and I will actively try and take as little as I can at the same time. So because I want to try and be able to fit everything I need in one case, and then a couple of extra bits that I need. So I'm going to take you through everything that goes in this case. So to start with, what I tend to use for all my bits and pieces is one of these Sullen black packs. So in the past I've had one of the backpacks, which was useful for a long time, but now I feel that I don't really need that. I still, however, use the cases. They're good for organising and customising the layout. You can get simple, cheaper ones for from craft supply places to do the job. Anyway, so in here I have got to start with a pair of scissors, because being a tattoo artist you always need scissors. I've already got some ink caps in one of these little compartments, and then I have some alcohol just decanted into a smaller spray bottle. It's worth, I would say, for travelling, keeping hold of these when you've got them for other things and they're empty. Keep hold of them and reuse them, because they're very, very useful for travelling as a tattooer. Next on the list to go in the case is I have some razors. I'm only doing some small pieces on two separate clients in the same place, so I will take two razors and a spare just in case. When I'm tattooing, I tend to just use Vaseline. I don't use any fancy tattoo process butters or anything like that. So in order to travel lightly, I'll pick up a couple of small pots of Vaseline, and then just for convenience, I also got one of these in the case, which is just a sample of some tattoo butter. So they'll go in there. They're just the right size to fit in. I will also take some micropore tape in the event that we have issues with the wrap that I normally use. So that will go in there. Speaking of the wrap, I just use like a second skin type film for healing. And then what I'll do for travel purposes is I'll just snip a bit off and roll it up so it fits nicely in the case, and I'll put that in with the scissors. So because I'm using Vaseline and not sort of individual sachets of anything, I need some tongue depressors. They'll go in there. What I often do a lot of the time is I freehand pieces. So if I freehand some lettering or a small gap filler, or just this, bits to sort of merge, sections that merge into other tattoos, I will freehand them on. So I always try and travel with a good selection of pens to get that job done. They have their own little slot, just the right amount, not too many. Of course, there's always one pen that's a little bit out of sorts shape-wise. We can pop that in there. Needles, I don't need a ton of needles for this. I've probably gone a little overkill, but I do like to have spares, but there's more than enough needles for what I'm doing there. Is there anything else to go in there? I don't think there's anything else that needs to go in there. What I probably will stick in is a couple of rolls of cohesive bandage. Because I've got quite big hands, I use a cohesive bandage to be more comfortable while I'm tattooing. Stuff them in there. That's pretty much that bit sorted. Can't really fit much else in there anyway, so close that up. Moving on, surfaces, I will use cling film to cover most surfaces. Oh, sorry, all surfaces. I don't tend to use big barrier sheets, just cling film. I find it much easier. But what I will be taking with me is a couple of dental bibs, and I'll pop them in this little sleeve just to keep them dry. Then also what I'm going to travel with is a couple of puppy pads, which should fit in there as well. Puppy pads are great for, big areas, or generally just for comfort. And if somebody's sat on something and they're, the tattoo's weeping a bit, or they're a bit sweaty, maybe, it's good for comfort to have that. And then these are a couple of disposable bed sheets. Because I'm going to do a private session at someone's home, it's worth taking stuff like this just to cover any furniture or the floor, just to avoid any ink splatters. Just being considerate to the client, really. So a couple of those, and they go fit nicely in there, and that keeps them dry and separate in the event that there's any spillages or leakages. Speaking of surfaces, I will travel with a pack, or most of a pack, of surface wipes. These are the ones I use in the studio, and that means we're not spraying chemicals around someone's home or someone's private area. So I'll travel with that. I will also on this occasion be traveling with these tattoo wipes. Now this isn't a product I would normally use, but I gave them a little try during this week, and I do think for this instance they will be useful while traveling. So also, again, as it's a private session, we're going to need a bag for our clinical waste and a sharps container. You can get these little travel size ones, which are perfect. They fit the case. Get them, I'm pretty sure you get them on Amazon, eBay, all that sort of stuff. Because I will bring my sharps and my clinical waste away with me, and I'll dispose of them with the rest of my waste from the studio. Also worth noting, I'll put some masking tape in for taping down sheets, all that sort of stuff, dental bibs, whatnot. And then more than enough rinse cups for the day. That's about that covered. Obviously, gloves. Sometimes I will use another one of these packets, and I'll just, take a handful of gloves and pop them in one of these. I don't have any more of them, so I'm just going to take a full box. A fresh roll of kitchen roll, because it's still in the packet. Going to keep it clean and dry during transit. Machines. So machines, they will travel in their own little case, but they will go inside the larger case. I travel with 2 machines, one with a slightly larger stroke for lining and larger areas of grey tone, and then one smaller throw on it, a 3.5 for general use during my black and grey pieces. In there also 2 batteries, both fully charged before I go, and then one just to spare just in case. Also a little CPL filter for taking photos or videos after, and then a couple of spare cams, and a USB cable, just in case. You never really know, but I haven't had any problems so far. Hopefully that continues that way. You'll have noticed I don't use any sort of barrier sleeves or anything like that with my machines, because what I do instead is I just wrap them in cling film. I have found that the barrier sleeves don't tend to fit well, they split, and for me they're a bit more hassle than they're worth. Moving on from there is, on this occasion I will travel with a bottle of green soap and a bottle of, this is just water and a witch hazel, so I use this for mixing my grey washes, and I will sometimes use this for cleaning down the skin mid-tattoo if I'm trying to preserve some freehand drawings or the stencil, because this green soap can wipe that off quite easily. While we're talking about stencils, some stencil fluid, that should be all right just as is. It will go in the case. And then, as I do a lot of freehand stuff, this stencil stuff, spray stuff, it just helps keep those pen marks on a little bit longer, a little bit easier to work with. And then ink wise, I use dynamic line in black, triple black and white. I will on occasion buy the small little 1 ounce bottles for traveling. I just didn't get around to it this time, so we're gonna show you a little trick for traveling with ink so it doesn't spill everywhere. A similar trick that also applies to your bottles. What I'll do with the bottles first is I'll show you that one. So first thing we need to do is, if we take your lid off your bottles, we'll get a little bit of kitchen roll. Just give them a dry, and if you take the straws off your bottles and you can pop them, you can chuck them in your case for now. This saves you hunting around for a tap or clean water in order to fill these. So just I'm going to take a little bit of cling film and you're just going to fold it over a few times and then chuck that over the top of your bottle and just screw your lid back on. That creates a nice tight seal so it doesn't squirt out everywhere. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this if you're flying or traveling anywhere where your baggage is going to get chucked around a lot. This is fine for myself where I'm driving, so I've got control over how my baggage is treated and handled. As I say, generally speaking, if I'm doing a guest spot or traveling for a convention, I wouldn't go to these lengths with taking everything I needed. I do like to be self-sufficient if I can at conventions, but a lot of stuff will be provided for you. So kitchen roll, water, sharps, surface wipes, that kind of thing. And suppliers often hand out in these little packs, they often hand out like a convention pack, so with razors, dental bibs, ink caps, that sort of thing. But as artists we can be a bit picky, so you'll find a lot of artists do like to travel with their own stuff because what's what makes them feel comfortable and able to do their best work. Moving on to the inks. It's a similar thing with the ink. I will take off the caps. I would recommend doing this with your gloves on because for keeping things clean, but also so you don't cover yourself in tattoo ink while you do it. So again, just a little bit of a little travel hack. Okay, so if you are traveling, if you're flying or you're going on a train, you're bags are going to get chucked around a lot, I would strongly suggest not only doing this, but bagging your ink bottles separately in like a little Ziploc bag. Because if they do leak or explode in transit, it goes everywhere and everything gets covered and it's a nightmare. So the more you can do to minimize that risk, the better. I mean, if you can buy the smaller travel bottles, the 1 ounce ones, and leave them sealed for before you set off, you know, before you pack your bags and set off, even better. Then you're not worrying about having to do this and seal them up before you go. It's just a case of dealing with it on your way home. And if you are unfortunate enough on your way home to have an ink explosion, and it's a bit easier to manage than on a convention floor or on a guest spot. So yeah, you'll find that it creates a really nice tight seal. Shouldn't go anywhere. So what have we got? We've got all our disposable consumable bits and pieces in there. We've got our machines. They will go in the case. So case is all good. That can go in. I will try and make sure that I lay my bottles with the lid facing upwards, so when this is stood up, they're upright, to avoid any major dramas. You know, but there's like a little gap down the side, wedge them in there. What else do we need to do? The gloves fit nicely at the top, as does my sharps container. Always take your cling film with you if you're traveling to do these private sessions. Wipes, those dental bits and pieces. These wipes also in there. Your rinse cups, your stencil fluid, your bin bags, tape, last of your spray bottles. It might take I sometimes have to jiggle this about and figure it out as I go, but worst case I can always stick my machines in my backpack. So I think we're good. Kitchen roll, again, can go separately. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't fit. Probably going to be a bit big for that. But that's everything I need in there. What I will do separately is I will likely take my armrest. Say if I was doing a convention or a guest spot, it's not something I would travel with, but as I'm driving for a private session, I stick it in the car. I'm going to make sure I've got my light with me, my ring light. I'm going to take a small little zip bag with some electrical stuff, so like cables, chargers, microphones for capturing videos and time lapses and all that sort of stuff. But that's about it. If you think there's anything that I missed from my packing for traveling, or you want to share your tips for how you travel to tattoos, if you found this useful or helpful at all, please do consider liking, subscribing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.